2022 was really an amazing year. That year, I turned 80 years old, a person who at age 15 had been told she wouldn't live to be 35. But thank you, Lord, the year was amazing. In April, I purchased a Ram Thor Scope van and began a journey of 15,750 miles across 25 states. I traveled with my faithful friend Tonto, who is Buddy, and I named the van Silver. The week of my birthday, my family met me in Farmington, New Mexico, where Daryl lives, and our first adventure was to go to Mesa Verde National Park in Colorado. From there, we traveled to Pagosa Springs, Colorado, where we had a couple condos, and we spent a day at the hot springs at Pagosa Springs, and then on my birthday, May 27th, 2022, we traveled to Durango to catch the Durango Silverton train, a steam engine. It was an incredible day. Pictures of the people come first because they are absolutely the most important piece of the journey. The scenery was magnificent. I went back to Daryl's for a little while, then met my cousins Julie and Mike Duncan and Denise Evans in Colorado Springs. There we visited Pikes Peak, over 14,000 feet high, and the Garden of the Gods. We left Julie and Mike in Colorado Springs and traveled on up to South Dakota, where we started with visiting Custer State Park. We also visited Deadwood, Mount Rushmore, the Badlands, and the great town of Wall Drugs. And actually, I became a resident of South Dakota during that visit. From South Dakota, Denise and I went on to Salt Lake City and went to Antelope Island, which is right in the middle of the Great Salt Lake. There are no antelope, but there are plenty of buffalo. While there, we went up to Park City, Utah, visited the Olympic Training Center, saw the condo Park Plaza that our family has owned for many years. I left Denise. We separated ways in Salt Lake City, and I traveled west via a portion of Zion National Park. My first stop in California was near Santa Clarita, where my friend of 58 years, Kathy Humphrey, was celebrating her 85th birthday. I camped for a few days at the Thousand Trails in Soledad Canyon, then went south to Rancho Cucamonga and had lunch with an old friend, Marlene Breen. When I got to San Diego, there were many adventures in silver. Dana and Mark and the kids and I went to Mission Bay for 4th of July. Tony and I went to Harbor Island. Sharon Hall met me in Coronado Strand. Mark and Dana came up to Oxenida, where Tony and I were camping. And then Frank and Marie Hawk came to the beach, to the Silver Strand, to have breakfast with me. Rhonda and Ray and Tyler flew out to California, where we had a lot of fun at La Jolla Cove, and then again took Tyler to Torrey Pines Golf Course, where he was incredibly excited. We missed Trevor. He didn't get to come. On August 13th, Denise and I took off on a cruise to Mexico. For the first time, we had our own balcony. Our first stop was Puerto Vallarta, where we were really excited to see a Walmart. We went on a tour that took us to a little village where we had lunch in a beautiful outdoor cafe where we even saw a white tiger. Then we went on to Mazatlan, where the Pulmonía, the little car that traveled through the city, was made. Our next stop was Cabo San Lucas, and I got to take a trip about 20 miles north of town to the little city of San Jose del Cabo. That was a fantastic day. In September, Daryl flew out for a few days from Farmington, and he and I met Dick and Kathy in LA to watch a Dodgers-Padre game. We won't talk about the score. After Daryl left, I camped at Fiddler's Cove on the Silver Strand for a few days. Dana and Mark came out to visit, and a few other folks did, Frank and Marie and Sharon Hall. It was fun. And then, finally, we went to the brand new stadium for San Diego State and watched a game. This slide represents the restaurant experiences in and near San Diego. The first picture is of Rachel Rico, a friend of Keith's during high school and Blue Devils era. The next one is my colleagues Jerry Rendon and Adriana Sanchez Aldana. Following are my friends Frank and Marie Hawk at Jalisco's, Daryl's family, his uncle and aunt and cousin in San Marcos. The next one is a restaurant called La Costera that is absolutely fantastic right on Harbor Island. The last row is Cheryl and Dana at the foot of J Street at the Galley. The middle one is Ann Veroom and Tony. Ann and I worked together at National City Adult School. And the last one is the family House of Pancakes that Rhonda remembers from her youth. The last of September, I made a trip to Murrieta to visit Ray's parents, Moody and Joanne, and then on to 29 Palms to see Andrew and Brittany and their family and Denise. Gloria and I got together several times for lunch. Then we went to a Padre game at Petco Park just at the beginning of the playoffs. I left Chula Vista in October and went on up to be with Keith and Amy in Santa Barbara. Our first excursion was a Charger game in the beautiful SoFi Stadium. We tailgated, had a great lunch, and then watched a great game. My favorite camping experience of the trip was camping by the beach between Santa Barbara and Ventura. It was beautiful. I still hear the waves beating against the sand. Dick and Kathy came over from Santa Clarita to visit a couple days in Santa Barbara. It was fun. Santa Barbara is a great place to be. It's beautiful. Keith and I watched the Padres beat the Dodgers. That was exciting. We ate dinner several times with Amy's parents, Jeannie and Hal Bear. I even tasted octopus that Chef Amy was making for one of her clients. At the end of October, I left California and traveled to Farmington, New Mexico to be with Daryl. While there, we had some real adventures. the first of which was Canyonlands National Park. Canyonlands was beautiful, but Arches was just incredible. My goal is to get back to Arches and camp for a few days so I can really see it. San Diego State football team was playing New Mexico in Albuquerque on November 18th. Daryl mentioned it at work, and one of his coworkers said, I have a skybox. Would you like to go there with me? And that was an experience that I never thought I would have. From Albuquerque, Daryl and I went on to Canyon, Texas to be with family, David and Gina, Gary and Kathy, and the kids, and even that new baby,
Liam, who was born on my birthday.
Thanksgiving was a special day. We went to Tulsa, Oklahoma to be with Daryl's sister and family, Cheryl and Richie Ivy, and 4 incredible young people,
Joshua, Benjamin, Luke, and Annalise. From Tulsa, I moved on to Branson, Missouri, where I spent time with my cousins Jim and Charray Galloway and picked up Naomi's piano to take to Florida.
Along the way, I stopped and had lunch with Jerry Bunch. Naomi and I did a lot. We went to St. Augustine, Florida, traveled around looking at the damage the hurricane had done.
Went to Bill Bailey's church to hear the Kingsmen Quartet sing and shop till we dropped.
But the most fun was when we tried out that new piano and did a little bit of music making of our own.
They wouldn't be
and to do the will of God, so we are told.
They wouldn't bow.
They would bow their knees to the idols made of gold.
They wouldn't burn.
They were protected by the fourth man in the fire. They wouldn't bend, they wouldn't bow, they wouldn't burn.
Now Prophet Daniel tells about 3 men who walked with God. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Before the wicked king they stood. Now the king commanded them bound and thrown in the fire furnace that day. But the fire so hot, the men were slain, that tossed them on their way. They wouldn't bend.
They wouldn't bend the will of our toll.
They wouldn't bow.
They wouldn't.
They wouldn't burn.
They were protected by the fourth man in the fire. They wouldn't bend, they wouldn't bow, they wouldn't burn.
Now the 3 were cast in, and the king rose up to witness their awful fate. And he began to tremble at what he saw, and in astonished tones he spake. Did we not cast 4 men bound, or 3 men bound into the fist of flame? I see 4 men unhurt, unbound, and a-walking down there. There's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and the fiery coals they trod. And the form of the 4th man I see is like the Son of God. They wouldn't bend.
They were protected by I am told. By gold.
Just trying to think.
They wouldn't bend.
They had to do the will of God, so we are told.
They wouldn't bow.
They wouldn't bow their knees to the idols made of gold.
They wouldn't
They were
burn.
protected by the 4th man in the fire.
They wouldn't bend. They wouldn't bow. They wouldn't burn.
Arriving back in Virginia, I was in store for a progressive Christmas. First, we had Christmas with Rhonda and Ray and the boys. That was a good evening. Later, Daryl and Dana and Mark arrived, and we enjoyed the time together. Doc and Sarah, with their boys, came over for dinner. The culminating activity was a trip to Busch Gardens Christmas Town. Tyler brought along his friend, Riley. What a year it was. I can't believe how good the Lord has been to me. I thank Him every day.